Seabiscuit leads by a length. Now Seabiscuit by a length and a half. Woolf has put away his whip. Seabiscuit by 3. Seabiscuit by 3. Seabiscuit is the winner by 4 lengths. And you never saw such a wild crowd. Seabiscuit the winner by 4 lengths. Trying to drown this crowd out here. They're roaring around me. Seabiscuit was the winner from end to end by 4 lengths.
Welcome to a great day in Cardston, and we're going to start, as these things should, with the national anthem. And where are our singers? Here they come. So please join with us as Elena and Tanisha sing "O Canada." Tanisha's last name is Lowe, and she is a member of the Woolf family. Elena, what's your last name again?
Snyder.
Oh, Snyder. Yes, I saw you at breakfast, didn't I? Okay, thank you, girls. Now, those of you who got up early enough and looked out the window this morning saw that a veil had been put over the land, but nature has now lifted that veil from the landscape of southern Alberta, and we gather here today to lift a veil from a monumental work of art. The last piece of music you heard is entitled "Summon the Heroes." Beginning now, we will summon the heroes of a moment from 72 years ago. A moment in sports history that shines still through the mists of time. Today we honor 2 champions, George Woolf and Seabiscuit. George Woolf was born in Cardston on the last day of May 1910. His rise through the ranks of jockeys was meteoric, and by the late 1930s he was one of the leading jockeys on the American horse racing scene. Experts have opined that he may have been the greatest riding talent racing ever saw. Seabiscuit was a rags to riches thoroughbred, whom the Dean of American Sports Writers, Grantland Rice, described in 1938 as a 5-year-old who all his life had known only the uphill, knockdown, devil-take-the-loser route, any track, any distance, any weight, any time. A combination of a grizzly bear and a running fool. Seabiscuit had, Rice said, proven himself to be a little horse with the heart of a lion and the flying feet of a gazelle, and the gamest thoroughbred that ever raced over an American track. Now we'd like to introduce the dignitaries, and if you could just give a wave to the audience so they kind of get an idea where you are. Jack and Ida Lowe, the donors of the statue. The Honorable Lindsay Blackett, Minister of Culture and Community Spirit. Don Toney, the artist who created the statue. Louis Reinwand, great nephew of George Woolf. Scott Scott Reinwan, son of Louis. Scott single-handedly set up the wonderful display of George Woolf memorabilia that is in our lobby. Shirley McClellan, Chair of Horse Racing Alberta. Rick Scow, Mayor of Cardston. Royce and Linda Jacobs. Royce is our member of the Legislative Assembly. Glenn Jones, Cardston Town Councillor. Now there might be other Cardston Town Councillors here, but none of them RSVP'd, so their names aren't on the list. Sounds like there's one there. William Woolf, better known as Bill. As far as we know, Bill is the oldest living relative of George Woolf. Peggy Ash, a proud member of the Woolf family, who has provided the memorabilia that is displayed at the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame booth in the lobby. Max Gibb from the Rocky Mountain Turf Club. Max is about the keenest fan of horse racing that one could find. Dot Stein, race manager for the Rocky Mountain Turf Club. Dot rounded up jockeys and suitable outfits for us. However, she had nothing in a 44 tall. Rose Rossi, general manager of the Rocky Mountain Turf Club. Robert Smith, publisher of the Temple City Star. He's on the roof back there. He's the publisher of the Temple City Star, and he has run numerous articles and photographs promoting this event over the past 6 months. Fred Lacey, the contractor for the plinth. Now, what the heck is the plinth? Well, that means the concrete base for the statue. Catherine Wally, Director of Historic Sites and Museums. Catherine rides herd over a collection of 17 historic sites and museums, and that's a task quite similar to herding cats. Randy Monroe from Alberta Infrastructure. Where are you, Randy? Randy was involved in the recent expansion of our restoration shop, of which we are quite proud. And Mike Bestie, also from Alberta Infrastructure. And Mike was our contact with regard to the construction of the plinth. Doug Wilson. Doug is a volunteer tourism promoter from Calgary who brought about the mini chuck races here at Remington. He thought the George Woolf Seabiscuit Memorial was an unbelievable opportunity for Cardston and for Alberta. He set to work contacting people and organizations across the continent. Many of the people you see here today are here because of his unceasing promotional efforts. So give him a wave, Doug. Gary Allison. Gary is a writer specializing in tourism and a friend of the Remington Museum of long standing. Dana Stewart. Dana's standing back there. And a lot of you from locally here know Dana. She's the executive director of the Friends of the Remington Museum, and she works quietly and efficiently behind the scenes, getting many important things done for the museum, and in particular for this event. Now, that was the Friends of Dana applauding the Friends of Remington. Now I want to introduce the Honor Guard. And those are the fellows you see, I think they're still there, standing behind me. And our honor guard is made up of men from 3 groups and 1 lady. Now, neutral alphabetical order, we have 2nd Lieutenant Darren Atwood of the Royal Canadian Artillery. Jockey Steve Blakely. Bugler Grant Erickson. Constable Mike Kazinchewicz of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And I almost pronounced his name properly, and I've been practicing for 2 days. It's the first time I fluffed it in probably 3 hours. Lieutenant Robert Meehan of the Royal Canadian Artillery. Jockey Cliff Miyashiro. Jockey Antonio Ramirez. Jockey Jerry Sarka was going to be here today. He was very excited about it, but he fell seriously ill last night, is unable to attend, and we wish him well. In his place, as a last-minute stand-in, we have Ann Buxton, who was indeed a jockey, and she agreed to stand in for Jerry. And last, Constable Mike Williams of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Now, these gentlemen and 1 lady will stand down now, but when you see them form up around the statue later in the program, you'll know that the moment we are waiting for has almost arrived. Now, the moment that some of us have been waiting for with apprehension or expectation or whatever, speeches. And the first speech is by Jack on behalf of the Lowe family. They are the donors of the monumental statue entitled So Long Charlie. 6 years ago, a friend of mine in the Crow's Nest Pass, David McIntyre, read Laura Hillenbrand's best-selling book, Seabiscuit, An American Legend, and found that George Woolf was America's leading jockey in the late 1930s and had ridden Seabiscuit in the race of the century against War Admiral. To his great surprise, he also learned that Woolf was from Cardston. He emailed me saying that I should do something to memorialize George Woolf in Cardston. So I replied by email to David that I would like to see in Cardston a full-size statue of George riding Seabiscuit, but that I thought it would never happen because it would be very expensive. That was 6 years ago. At that exact same time, Jack Lowe was thinking precisely the same thing, except he was not saying someone should do something. In the manner of people of action, Jack was saying, I'm going to do it. And what he did is sitting here before us today. Please welcome Jack Lowe. This is an absolutely overwhelming experience. To see so many people so interested in this George Woolf Seabiscuit story. It's unbelievable. I've written a few little things down here and studied them. I'm sure I won't remember everything as it should be, but anyway, it's our pleasure today to recognize and honor George Woolf, a Cardston-born celebrity, for his many outstanding talents and accomplishments. And his legendary image will live on as long as we have jockeys, horse racing, and beyond. Cardston should be very proud of George Woolf on his rise to greatness.
there was no big money or famous parents promoting his career. He earned his fame and fortune with his own grassroots talent and ability. George Woolf and Seabiscuit have gone down in immortal history in the world of horse racing. And such a tribute is seldom achieved in any walk of life. However, in all fairness, we should also acknowledge Red Pollard of Edmonton, Johnny Longden of Tabor, for their contribution and achievements in the racing world. I feel it should be noted here that 3 of the very famous jockeys in the world of horse racing were born and raised right here in Alberta. Namely, George Woolf, Johnny Longden, and Red Pollard. The life of George has been an inspiration to me, and I hope it will be to all of us. George and Seabiscuit were famous in their own right, but when they came together in Pimlico in 1938, in the great match race against War Admiral, a racehorse that was considered unbeatable. He was a Triple Crown winner, beat everything in America, considered unbeatable. The result was George and Seabiscuit defeating War Admiral by 4 lengths and setting a new track record in so doing. As George took off on Seabiscuit and left Charlie Kirsinger riding War Admiral behind, he turned and said, "So long, Charlie," making the famous remark to Charlie Kirsinger as he pulled away. And that is a legend, "So long, Charlie," that has stood the stress of time ever since, and also the name of the bronze. It is my sincere hope that as our young people look at the bronze and learn more of George's life, they may see what can be accomplished if we sincerely set a goal for our life and study and work hard at it. Take the ups and downs of success. I think what young George accomplished in his short life should be an example to all of us. It is my hope that the story the bronze tells will be an inspiration to all, and I'm sure George would feel the same way. Every once in a while, we see individuals who seem to be born into greatness. Case in point, Wayne Gretzky and a few others who have become stars in their own right. They seem to be born in a field as no others, to excel in their field as no others can. It is our desire that the bronze will be a benefit to Alberta, the Remington Museum, the town of Cardston, and the surrounding area. To me personally, it has been a great ride and a dream come true to research and discover the many achievements of George's life. I wish to acknowledge and say thanks to all who have helped to make this occasion possible. And perhaps the most recognition should go to Don Tony, the master craftsman that built and created this beautiful bronze and the plaques that surround it. I'm sure, in fact I know, that Don searched deep into his talents and ability. And he has the talent and ability, as can be seen on the bronze when unveiled. From all of us, a heartfelt thank you to you, Don. You've been a pleasure to work with. I would also like to recognize Howard Snyder for all his help and untiring efforts in many areas to obtain this site through the Alberta government for the bronze to be displayed. His efforts and enthusiasm have been invaluable. He just gushes with enthusiasm. He has ever since the start. In fact, I couldn't keep up to it. Both Howard and I were in total agreement on this chosen site. As you look at it, this site was doing nothing. But isn't this a perfect location for this building? Howard has spent many days and months working on this project and is very much appreciated for his talent and knowledge in helping to put this endeavor together. Also, a big thanks to Fred Lacey for his talent and knowledge used in the construction of the base and the surrounding area for the bronze. Also the cabinets to display the wonderful collection of George Woolf memorabilia from the Greenwalls from Utah. Thank you, Fred, for those cabinets. And to the Lewis Reenwan family, thanks for the generous exhibit of so many photos and artifacts of George and Seabiscuit to display here at this time. This collection is without a doubt the best anywhere in North America, and the world for that matter. What Louis has done to collect the memorabilia of George is unbelievable. Also, Jenny Baron and her husband Victor from Nevada. She has been a big help to us. She got onto the story, and she's been a big help, her and her husband. We appreciate their extensive knowledge of Seabiscuit and helping in every way they could. Johnny, due to her health, she couldn't be here today, but she certainly has been a wonderful help to us. And a special thank you to my wife Ida for her judgment and advice in many areas. Also thanks to my wife and Eric Dick of the Garden Center of Roxburgh and the Carson Communities in Bloom for the beautiful display of flowers you see here today for all of us to enjoy. If anyone is interested, I have written a brief story of George's life, early life, growing up here in Cardston and going on to world fame. The little book can be obtained here at the museum. And due to the fact that we know almost with certainty that George's death was caused by an insulin blackout when he was riding a race at Santa Anita. He blacked out and fell from the horse and struck his head on the sharp rail of the track. And concussion, he died 2 hours later. So we're all fighting diabetes, and I'm going to donate half of the proceeds from the little book to the Diabetic Association. Thanks again. Thanks to Doug Wilson. He's helped us quite a bit as well. He's from Calgary, a historian up there. Thanks again to many others who have helped along the way, and there's a lot of little things you don't see here today that people have done and are really appreciated. From Ida and myself and the family, I wish to thank all of you who have come today to celebrate this day with us, making it the success we had hoped to achieve. I would like to take this opportunity to present to Louis Reenwald this bronze in appreciation for his wonderful donation of George Woolf memorabilia. Also wishing you a happy birthday, Louis. It is his birthday today. like me. He doesn't walk as good as he used to, but he's still going strong.
Strongest man I know. And Howard.
I'm going to have to talk to Don about this, because this is what happens when you leave a big one out in the rain.
Thank you for being here. It's amazing to find so many people who are interested in George Woolf. I have been since I was a very young child. Went to California, visited his home, stayed with him, got picked up by him, have home movies of that event. And actually there's a picture of me in his 1941 Lincoln Continental. My grandmother, Alice, standing next to George, was his older sister. She was born here in Fort McLeod in 1895. And my mother was a Canadian as well, almost. She was born in Del Bonita. That's a hard luck story. But anyway, she's a good old gal. And actually gave me the first George Woolf memorabilia. I had seen it. I saw my great-grandmother, Rose, George's mother, down in Browning. And she was about 89, I was 18. And I'd driven up from Butte, which is my hometown. And she was 4'6" at that time, just a tiny. And she kept badgering my grandmother, when's that bum gonna leave? So I didn't feel very welcome to her. She had with her some stuff from the Charles Cheeseman barber shop. She had 4 or 5 of those. And I said to my grandmother, boy, I'd love to have those. My grandmother ignored me. My mother, of course, inherited within short months. Everybody died at once. And my mother gave me 4 of those, and they're inside, part of the collection. But I went from there, collected everything I could, basically restricted by dollars. I could have got more. There was a lot out there. Nobody was collecting. People just forget their heroes, and they've forgotten horse racing history. And it always amazed me that I was able to walk into people's homes. One lady gave me 25 reels of film. And she gave me George's naturalization papers as a U.S. citizen in 1943 in Los Angeles. Just stuff like that. She gave it to me. It's incredible. But we've been all over the West chasing George. And as you can see inside, it's been worth it. Eventually my son Scott, he came up and set it up with my brother. Ida jumped in and helped. And my daughter Amy, in the last 6 months, put together the black and white collection. So all that work is hers. And then Mac, who's here from Texas, when he got out of high school, there wasn't much to do. So I asked him he'd scan everything onto the computer. And we have every newspaper clipping of George Woolf races. 8 albums. And scanned that all into the computer. I suppose we could sell that, but we're still a little jealous of it. It's not in perfect order. But he scanned all the scrapbooks. The albums, I have 5 or 6 albums. We haven't done anything much with them, but they're glorious. Anyway, thank you for this bronze. I'm the luckiest man in the area.
Maybe I'll get
Yeah, Scott can help me. Scott is my worker bee son. He lives nearby. Boy, you gotta have a son like that. Thank you, brother.
Melvin.
Thanks. Well, one quick note. I got a phone call one day from Jack. I didn't know Jack. It's just Jack.
That's good in the back of my head, probably.
Yeah, I'll go to clutch. He said, I heard it's a big clutch. I said, yeah.
Sand.
He says, well, I want to come down and see it. I said, what? He said, I'll be down tomorrow. So he and I just showed up the next day. But I was, in my own world, I was in a coma. And I was not available. I was dreaming about other things. But the next day home, I met with him. He proposed bringing things up here. And I didn't like that idea because I didn't like things being out of my control. But I was convinced finally that Jack was right, that it would be a fitting tribute to what he had done. So we brought it all up and had to haul a trailer and a truck to get it all up there. And thank you. I appreciate everyone.
I'm kind of looking around for Peggy Ash. Ah, here she comes. Ah, here's one. There's one. Anytime I meet somebody from Del Bonita, I say, oh yeah, you're the folks who come up to McGrath to stare at the tall buildings.
Jack and Ida, could I have you come up? On behalf of the Wolves, I'm honored to say a few words today. I want to thank you so very much for your vision, your determination, your insight, and your expertise and gifts in creating this magnificent memorial for George Woolf. The hours and hours you have put into this project, no one will ever know. How can we thank people like you for your immense generosity? May you know and feel of our indebtedness to you for making this dream of so many finally come true. Your vision was greater than any we ever dreamed possible. Thank you, thank you. George Woolf thanks you, and we as part of his Woolf family thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You will always have a place in our Woolf history books now, right alongside George. Because of you, the legacy of George Woolf will always be remembered here in Cardston, Alberta, Canada, and worldwide. You belong in the winner's circle of our heart. Jack and Ida, may you accept these roses in recognition of all that words cannot express.
Mrs. Nash and I had talked on the phone a couple of times about some of George's memorabilia. And then, I don't know, we kind of drifted away. And just day before yesterday down here, when we were working on this plinth to put the bones on, she came, and we had never seen each other before. And she came over and asked if she could give me a big hug, and I said, "You certainly can." And here we were, two perfect strangers, hugging out here in front of this plinth. I thought, you know, that must send a message. I never had that happen before in my life. But she's a wonderful lady, and I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Peggy's comments about George being pleased brings to mind something that Laura Hillenbrand said. Laura Hillenbrand wrote the best-selling book Seabiscuit American Legend, in which she said, George Woolf may have been the greatest riding talent racing ever saw. And we wanted that quote for the statue, and it's there on the other side. We had to get permission because it was in a copyrighted book. So I tracked her down. It took 5 weeks to find her, and she answered within 12 hours and said she'd be delighted. She was so excited and pleased, and she said, George is smiling down on you from somewhere. Our next speaker is, now incidentally speakers, I say something about each one of you, so don't hop right up until I say, come on up. Don Toney is an Alberta artist from Lethbridge who specializes in Western themes, particularly horses. In his hands, a lump of clay evolves into a dynamic image which is then cast in bronze. So Long Charlie is his latest and so far largest creation. When I first became involved in this project, I was unfamiliar with Don's work, and I was a peripheral player in the scheme of things anyway. So I would make tentative suggestions to Don through Jack Lowe about some of the niceties of design or historic accuracy. Needless to say, I eventually learned that Don knew not only infinitely more than I did about sculpting, he also knew a lot more than I do about horses and jockeys. Yet he accepted my suggestions with complete grace, like a tolerant uncle might listen to the babbling of a child. For such forbearance, I thank you, Don. Please welcome the creator of So Long Charlie, Don Toney.
About 3 weeks back, Howard sent me an email asking me if I wanted to speak at this occasion. I never did get back to him.
What's the price for not replying?
Obviously. Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming out this occasion to celebrate the unveiling of my sculpture to honor George Woolf. Being commissioned by the Lowes to do this sculpture has been one of the greatest moments of my life. It's certainly been the greatest artistic moment of my life. Outside of my family and art and horses have been the greatest passion of my life. And this sculpture represents a chance for me to put those two together. This is the first life-size full horse I've been able to do. Bronze is one of the greatest mediums that artists can choose to work in. Historically, it has been the medium of choice for portraying significant people and achievements. It is an enduring, resilient, and strong art material. Artistically, it is capable of capturing the subtle and the delicate to the powerful and massive. Every movement in art history, from the superrealism to the total abstraction, has had its stable of artists who have used bronze as their form of expression. But bronze does not yield its artistic expression easily. There are many steps involved in the process, each of them involving a different set of skills and different equipment. And always a significant amount of time and expenses added up at each stage. It is at all stages dirty, messy work. Precautions must be taken to protect from burning yourself on kilns, melting wax, furnace, welding torches, and patina work. Cuts and abrasions are common from knives, chisels, high-speed grinders, sanders, saws, and drills. Dust from the grinders and sanders will harm your lungs, and breathing it, if you don't wear proper particulate masks, will be very harmful. Fumes from patina work are their own hazard to avoid through gas masks. Hearing protection must be used in many of the steps. That same dust created by the grinders on exposed skin will oxidize, turning your skin green and very irritable. Many, if not all, bronze technicians will suffer crush injuries from falling bronzes and equipment, and repetitive strain injuries from shoulders to fingers are very common. Add to this the eye strain, and you get a picture of what it takes to work in this incredible medium. We all grumble and complain as we go through this process, but the results to be achieved can leave you in a state of awe and proud of what you've achieved. This is your compensation for what you might have had to gone through to produce a finished sculpture. I owe a debt of gratitude to Vaughn Stewart and his technicians at Bronze Art Casting in Calgary for helping me to realize my artistic vision. I would like to thank some more people who are important in helping me in my career in this project. My dad and mother have been my biggest fans since I was a young boy, drawing pictures of cowboys and horses. And their appreciation and their support for my work have helped me greatly. I'd like to thank my lovely wife, Verna, for enduring the ups and downs of this demanding job. It uses up your time and your time with your family, and you talk too much about it. But that patience, I think, is starting to wear a little thin. And I just want to say, we've only got a few more hours to go, love. Also, a huge thanks to our MC, Howard Snyder. His enthusiasm and passion for this project have given us a home for this sculpture at this magnificent facility. I will hope you enjoy this work of art I've created. Thank you all for coming.
Now, you know, Don mentioned something that could be important to us all, and that is we're all supposed to be green these days, and he told us how to get it done. I think it was bronze dust, wasn't it? Our next speaker is Shirley McClellan. We have 3 reasons for being pleased to welcome Mrs. McClellan here today. First, she is the chair of Horse Racing Alberta and a keen observer and promoter of thoroughbred racing. Second, she was at one time minister of our department, which at the time was called the Department of Community Development. She was a staunch advocate for historic sites and museums, from which advocacy we benefited. And third, Horse Racing Alberta, without a request or even a hint from us, offered to sponsor this unveiling event, including the lunch we will all be enjoying immediately following the ceremony. So now, with the enthusiasm generated only partly by the prospect of food being made available later in the day, please welcome Shirley McClellan.
Well, thank you very much, Howard. Minister Lindsay, my old colleague, not old in that sense, but how wonderful to join you in your constituency for another wonderful occasion today. Mayor Rick, how proud you must be. And to the family and friends of course, George Woolf and Seabiscuit. But most of all, I'm delighted to be here with Jack and Ida Lowe. Jack and Ida, you have done an amazing, amazing thing for this community. And Jack, I especially want to thank you for your words earlier that brought this whole story to life for all of us. Dawn, I was excited to meet you in Lethbridge a few weeks ago, and I'm even more excited to see the unveiling of the big picture. I'm, of course, pleased to be here as chair of Horse Racing Alberta to join in the ceremony of the unveiling of a great jockey, some say, many say, the greatest jockey ever, and an amazing horse, Seabiscuit. Again, Jack and Ida, thank you for making this a part of this community in our province. To all of the people that put this together today, and you've heard of many of them, Howard, your staff, a huge thank you. We all know how much goes into pulling something of this size off, and I can tell you, you've done it beautifully. Horse racing has and will continue to be, and has such strong roots, particularly in southern Alberta. It's a part of a long-standing tradition, and this depiction of George Woolf, a Cardston boy, and his amazing mount, Seabiscuit, will stand as a lasting monument to the legacy. What better place to showcase these icons than at the Remington Carriage Museum, the finest collection of our Western heritage transportation to be found anywhere. Horse racing, beyond its great traditions and heritage, contributes in a very significant way to this province. Both urban communities and rural communities, both economically and financially. Sometimes we forget that over 8,000 people, that's an approximate number, are employed either directly or indirectly by this industry. It's been noted, Rocky Mountain Turf Club, Max, Rose, and Dot, just north of us. It's a very great example of a very important venue to showcase our sport and to celebrate the horse, which is really what we're all about. The unveiling here today will be a constant reminder of the importance of horse racing to our culture, to our history, and a way of life in this province. We want to thank the Government of Alberta, Lindsay, for its ongoing support of horse racing by making it possible for the industry to grow and to continue to be an integral part of Alberta's economy and the history. And finally, a huge thank you to the men and women who contribute to and work in this industry, who believe in this industry, and who carry on its proud traditions. The legacy will continue, supported today by the unveiling of two of the icons of horse racing and the rich heritage of horse racing in southern Alberta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirley. I was going to say, and I didn't write it in my notes, so I didn't do it, that our order of speaking today has been altered 4 times in the last 3 days. So I was going to say, surely I will be forgiven if I get things out of order, and if I call only Shirley, Shirley. Representing the town of Cardston, our next speaker is Mayor Rick Scow. Rick is a local businessman well known for being a willing community booster. I have had the privilege of serving with Rick on various boards and committees over the past 35 years, where he had a deserved reputation for being a man who could be depended upon to do an assignment, to do it well, and to do it on time. He is bringing the same attitude to his work as mayor. Please welcome Cardston's Mayor, Rick Scow.
Thank you, Howard. What a touching day, and what a great, memorable moment this will be in just a few moments when we get to witness this unveiling. On behalf of the town of Cardston, Mayor and Council, we'd like to echo all the wonderful things, all the wonderful contributions from you great people who have participated at any level, in any capacity, in bringing this to fruition. And on behalf of the town of Cardston, Mayor and Council, I would like to extend thanks to you folks and all who are in attendance today, you great and wonderful people here in the town of Cardston, many from the county and many from the surrounding area in southern Alberta, and people from far and wide. We thank you for your attendance here. You are such a tribute to this province and to this community. Thank you so very, very much. Please stay the entire day. If you're not from Cardston, stay the weekend. Move here if you choose. We will take you with open arms. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Rick. Now that invitation to move in is even extended to folks from Del Bonita. But if one of you was to move here, that would halve the population of Del Bonita. Lindsay Blackett is the Minister of Culture and Community Spirit in the Government of Alberta. As such, he is responsible for not only historic sites and museums, such as the Remington Carriage Museum, but also for the arts, which are a special passion for him. That is fitting, since he will now receive, on behalf of the people of the province of Alberta, this donation of one of the most significant pieces of art to be produced this year, or indeed any year. Please welcome the Honorable Lindsay Blackett.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back in Cardston and be here on behalf of Premier Stelmach and my government colleagues, including my good friend and your MLA for Cardston Table Warner, Boyce Jacobs. You know, today is kind of like a trifecta for me because, as Howard just mentioned, we get to celebrate a monumental piece of art to represent an icon in George Woolf, a Cardston boy who's made good and became one of the best, if not the best, jockeys in the world, and also Seabiscuit, which is an athlete by any measure of historical significance. Also, I'm responsible for heritage and I'm responsible for community. And it's great to be here along with my colleague. We have our mayor, Rick Scow, Shirley McClellan from the Horse Racing Alberta, Jack and Ida Lowe, who so graciously and generously donated this work of art. Howard Schneider, as I mentioned, Mr. Tony, who created this wonderful piece of art we're about to see, members of the Woolf family, museum staff, and everyone in this wonderful community. And I mention all those names because it's a community that makes it happen, and Alberta is the place it is. The best place in the world to live, I would say, because of the people. It's families that got together to help one another 100 years ago, worked together to help a neighbor with their farm, with their raise their barn, looked out for one another, and made sure that we made ourselves stronger and more significant. And what we have to do, we have to be really vigilant, is to remember our history. Our history is the window of the soul of who we are. It's what made us who we are today. It's what gives us the things that we get to enjoy, and it shows what our future is going to be. And I can't mention community without mentioning the men and women in uniform, and it's so great to have members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and our armed forces here today. As I mentioned, George Woolf and the famous thoroughbred Seabiscuit are part of Alberta's rich history. The Remington Carriage Museum is home to the largest collection of horse-drawn carriage vehicles on display in North America and one of the finest collections anywhere in the world. This museum showcases 240 plus vehicles that allow visitors to experience the lifestyle of Alberta before the reign of the automobile. The museum is also now home to the statue. We're proud to host it for all Albertans. It's a chance for them to come and see it, and it's for the world to remember a piece of our historic past. The life-size bronze represents a story of unexpected triumph with strong Alberta connections. George Woolf, obviously from Cardston, the Lowe family who commissioned the statue, ranchers from right here in Cardston, Don Tony who created and designed the beautiful statue from Lethbridge, and Red Pollard, Seabiscuit's other principal jockey from Edmonton. Albertans have to be a lot to be proud of in this incredible story. There are two people who are exceptionally proud and wanted to show it, Jack and Ida Lowe. On behalf of the province, I want to thank the Lowes for their generous donation in commissioning this $150,000 statue. Lowe's desire to showcase this moment in history will strengthen Remington's visitor experience by celebrating a thrilling chapter in horse racing, which has had a storied and vibrant past in our history. Future generations will know the story of the Cardston boy who rose to fame with Seabiscuit in 1938. I'd like to thank Horse Racing Alberta for hosting this event, and may the statue and its story evoke and serve as inspiration to all to live our dreams and fulfill our potential. Because as Albertans, we've always done that and will continue to do so in the future. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Minister Blackett. And we're going to get serious now. And as an indication of that, so our honor guard is in place now, and you'll notice that the jockeys are wearing racing silks. You'll notice that I too am wearing racing silks. The H stands for Howard, of course, but not Howard Snyder. It stands for Charles Howard, who was the owner of Seabiscuit. The shirt has the same color scheme and the same pattern as the one worn by George Woolf whenever he rode Seabiscuit. Looks like my papers got shuffled too. Now you might think that I don't look like a jockey. Some people have said that to me today. But you'd be surprised. The jockeys you see here are on the thoroughbred racing circuit. I'm on the less well-known but highly competitive Clydesdale racing circuit. In fact, I'll tell you a little incident that happened this morning right out here. One of the jockeys walked up, and he hadn't been working as a jockey for a while, and he felt self-conscious because he had put on some weight. And he walked up and he saw me, he patted his tummy, he says, well, now I don't need to worry. You can tell who it was. Okay, the race. Now about the moment depicted in the statue. In 1938, George Woolf was chosen to ride Seabiscuit in the match race against War Admiral at Maryland's Pimlico Racetrack, a contest known to this day as the race of the century. The Eastern press talked of Seabiscuit's poor chances, and the opposing stable and their jockey, Charlie Kurtzinger, were openly derisive and thought that Seabiscuit was nowhere near a credible challenge to War Admiral, who was the Triple Crown champion and 1937's Horse of the Year. Kurtzinger said, and was quoted in the newspapers, "I don't care if Woolf elects to try to make a race of it. The Admiral will lick him in any part of it. I don't think Seabiscuit will give him much trouble." War Admiral was the prohibitive favorite, chosen to win by all of the writers of the racing form and by over 90% of sports writers generally. Only a vociferous California contingent stood by Seabiscuit. The knowledgeable horse people said War Admiral was the fastest off the starting line, had the greatest endurance, and had the fastest finish. Seabiscuit's only chance, they said, was to draw the rail and try to keep up with War Admiral's pace. War Admiral drew the rail. On the day of the race, there were 40,000 people packed into a track designed for 16,000. And with 40 million more, 1 out of every 3 Americans, listening to the broadcast on radio, the largest audience ever for any sporting event in America. Businesses closed early for the day of the race, and President Roosevelt kept advisors waiting while he listened to Clem McCarthy call the race on NBC. McCarthy had been doing a pre-race broadcast from trackside, and the crowd was so dense that he could not make his way from the track to the press box, and was forced to call the race from trackside, where his view was partially obscured. After 2 false starts, where first one horse and then the other was turned out, on the 3rd attempt, everything was aligned, and McCarthy excitedly shouted, he did.
And they're off, and this is a go. And Georgie Woolf is at the whip on Seabiscuit to key him up, and they're coming to me head and head. War Admiral on the inside. Woolf is driving Seabiscuit, and Seabiscuit is outrunning him. Seabiscuit is coming to me 1 length, 2 lengths in the lead, and he came right over 2 lengths. He goes by me. Seabiscuit by 2 lengths. War Admiral right on his heels. Kurtzinger sitting still and biding his time. And his Seabiscuit by 1.5 lengths down the backstretch. They're halfway down that backstretch, and there goes War Admiral after him. Now the horse race is on, and I'm losing them there. They're head and head, but I'll catch them here just another 50 yards. They're head and head, and now War Admiral has a head advantage, and Seabiscuit's got a head advantage. They're going into that far turn, head and head, and is either one. Take your choice. And right there, they're coming into view now. And the head and head Seabiscuit on the inside. By a neck with War Admiral second. That big throng dashing across the track. Across the infield, they're coming to this fence. They'll come into the stretch here in just a second. And they're head and head as they head for that home lane. Watch for them now as they turn into the stretch. Head and head. Both horses under a drive. This is a real horse race. Just what we hope we get. They're head and head. And both jockeys driving. It's the best horse from here in. They've got 200 yards to come. It's horse against horse. Both of them driving. Seabiscuit leads by a length. Now Seabiscuit by 1.5 lengths. Woolf has put away his whip. Seabiscuit by 3. Seabiscuit by 3. Seabiscuit is the winner by 4 lengths.
I noticed to some of the previous speakers that must be the cotton from these trees. There's a lot of hay fever going on. 4 lengths. War Admiral ran his best time ever at the distance, but lost to Seabiscuit's track record time by 4 lengths. That evening, Seabiscuit was chosen by the sports writers as 1938's Horse of the Year. Years later, Samuel Riddle, the owner of War Admiral, said to Seabiscuit's trainer, Tom Smith, "The only ones who ever beat me were you and George Woolf." On that brisk fall day in 1938, as Seabiscuit had surged ahead down the home stretch, Woolf had looked over his right shoulder at Charlie Kurtzinger and shouted, "So long, Charlie. So long, Charlie." Both the phrase and the stirring moment captured in bronze will live on in Cardston. Could we have the unveiling party step forward, please? Jack and Ida Lowe, Minister Lindsay Blackett, Don Toney, Shirley McClellan, Louis Reinwan, once I get in there and set it up, which will take a minute, you can actually see the 1938 race. You can see the historic news footage of the race step by step. We have it just inside the north doors on a 42-inch screen. So you get a good view of the original 1938 race. Also, in the theater, we have about an 8-minute clip of the movie Seabiscuit showing Red Collar counseling with George Woolf.
You got it there? Hang on. How are you? You got the... Not too bad.
Yeah. I didn't like this. Hi there. Yeah. Oh, it was so nice in there. And I really wanted to
get some? Did you get some?
Did you touch it? Oh, the back is so strong. Wow.
Nice job. This is a story that's... We got 6.